and thank you for joining us for the webinar on Empower Your Workforce with Self-Directed Paths for Learning and Development in partnership with SumTotal. I am Akshaya from People Matters, and this webinar is a part of the Get Set Learn campaign in association with Skillsoft and SumTotal that is currently up on our online platform. Do visit the Get Set Learn page and know more about this unique campaign. Now, before moving to the agenda of the day, let me give you a brief of the topic. Over 70% of your people consider opportunities for development as the most critical factor in choosing to stay with the organization. Add to that, nearly 80% say they would remain longer if they could see a career path within their current organization. In this webinar session, you will learn how to deliver individualized development for every role, from individual contributor, new manager, to seasoned leader. How you can take a holistic approach to development that blends talent and learning. How you can deliver visibility and tools to support career mobility within the organization without creating a burden for HR resources. Let me now introduce you the speakers for this webinar. We have the privilege of having with us Tim Lawrence, Director of Solutions Architect Asia Pacific, SumTotal Systems, a Skillsoft company. Tim is responsible for technical pre-sales and solution architecture, as well as mentoring the solution architect organization across Asia Pacific. Tim delivers strategic and compelling software demonstrations, prototypes, and presentations. He also supports and guides a regional team of highly skilled product and functional experts, and has proven experience in the design, development, sale, and implementation of online solutions that meet the needs of both business and customers. He has more than 16 years of experience delivering online content, commerce, and marketing solutions. Prior to joining SumTotal Systems in 2015, Tim worked for Suoro, EB Squared, Netcat, and Macquarie Bank. Our partner for today's webinar is SumTotal. SumTotal Systems LLC, a Skillsoft company and a leading provider of integrated HR solutions, is increasing the performance of some of the world's most successful organizations. SumTotal's people-focused talent expansion applications is available on-premise and in the cloud, enables contextual, just-in-time development designed to help organizations discover, develop, and unleash the hidden potential within their workforce and business ecosystem. We have a very exciting topic to discuss in this webinar today, so without any further ado, let me invite Tim to take over. Over to you, Tim.
Hi everyone, thank you very much. I'm going to start my screen share now, so hopefully you'll start seeing my screen. And thank you very much for that kind introduction. Just make sure, could someone let me know that they're seeing my screen correctly? Is that a yes? Okay, I'm going to work on the assumption that you guys can see my screen and continue. So first of all, this is me on the right. That's exactly what I look like, maybe 20 years ago, but no. You saw me before. My name is Tim Lawrence. I am a director of the Solution Architects team, and we're sort of half business, half technical. So we're there to understand people and their business and their problems and help them see how the solution can assist them. That's our job. And today what we're going to be talking about is how to empower your workforce to allow them to be self-directed. And that goes across learning, individual development, and actually career mobility, and a few other areas too. But this is the main focus, and I'm going to get into it now. So to start with, you will all know that organizations today face a large number of challenges when it comes to your workforce. Right? And really, we're seeing a number of issues. Employee engagement is one of the leading issues. We're seeing 90% of executives, according to Deloitte, rating this as their top challenge. Right? And this lack of engagement is having a profound effect on employee productivity and profitability. Now, as leaders, you will know that your team, your talent, your staff are really the only competitive advantage you have. But you've got a rapidly changing environment. You've got new demographics of people coming in, and that can lead to high turnover. It can also lead to skill gaps. And we're seeing that the ability to be agile and quickly address business needs by making sure that your team, your staff have the right skills is of critical importance. So creating a skilled workforce is 65% of CEOs said that is a top priority. We're also seeing issues of productivity declining, okay? But probably the high turnover and retaining people is one of those major issues. We're seeing the fact that high-performing talent, which, let's face it, they're the ones who are the most important to keep, combine that with, change in demographics of millennials coming through, is driving people to leave, to do more job changing, even more than before. In fact, we're seeing that 93% of companies are changing their strategy to retain talent. And finally, let's face it, people leave your business, not necessarily because they don't want to do the job, but most people leave because of a bad manager, a bad boss. And the ability to have good people retained and not lose them actually does relate to a shortage of qualified leaders and a shortage of qualified people to step into leadership and leadership roles when they become available. So what we're seeing here is also that your managers that may be in the role aren't always entirely or effectively equipped. And a high-performing manager can lead to a more engaged workforce and better productivity with nearly 50% higher profitability. So for all these reasons, leadership is a key challenge for most organizations. So these are some of the drivers we're seeing: keeping high engagement, retaining your best people, ensuring they're productive, ensuring they have the skills necessary for your companies to be agile, and ensuring that your leaders and managers have the right skills, and the people who are ready or wanting to move into leadership roles are identified and correctly supported. These are the challenges we're seeing across the globe. And it's only going to get worse. We, across the world, and this is especially true in India, my Indian team tell me this all the time, are seeing millennials coming in more and more. And that's defined as anyone who was born after 1980. So yes, it includes me, almost, but with my sister, is a millennial. And these millennials are slightly different from the Gen X, which is my generation, and the baby boomers of my parents, in a couple of key areas. And I've identified them here. This is where they are most different. They are looking for the opportunity to learn and grow, and they are looking for opportunity for advancement. It's less a case of what the millennials can do for your company. What you can do for your millennials is the way that they will think. Maybe that's not unfair, but if you can't give them opportunities to develop and to grow, if you can't give them career mobility, they will leave. And let's face it, in 20 years' time, millennials are going to make up the majority of your business, so you want the best ones. Now, everything I've said here is especially true in India. Employee engagement is recognized as a critical component of business performance. Right? It influences employee contribution and employee retention. If you can't engage your employees, you will lose them and they will not be productive. It goes back to retention and productivity. And to create a direct impact on how productive and how highly performing your team are, you need to look at skilling them. And to do that, you need a good learner engagement. Your learners and the way you teach your teams has to be an engaging experience. Now, this is something that's not new. Right? You think about where we're coming from, and we do not leave our consumer expectations at the door. I mean, every single person in the school has a smartphone. A lot of us will have tablets. And we've become spoiled in the past 20 years by consumer technologies. You think of, we want to search like Google. We want curation like Spotify, where we can get the beautiful content selected just for us. We want Facebook with the social side and that timeline. We want Amazon or Netflix recommendations. If you like this, maybe you should try that. These consumer expectations are ones that people don't leave at the door when they walk into your office. We expect it from enterprise software. And there is no reason why we shouldn't be able to deliver that. So the summary is the tools and the practices that most companies use are not enough to keep pace. And we see this in the US, we're seeing this across Asia Pacific, we're seeing this in India. Some regions will be a little bit after the others, but this is a global trend. To address this, the interesting story is our CEO actually sat down with one of the chief analysts, a gentleman named Josh Burson, and ran them through the product that you're going to see. And this was in the winter 2016 release 6 months ago. We actually have the summer 2016 release due out in 5 days, and you are going to get a sneak peek. Right? The only people who've seen it is in Las Vegas, in HR Tech, and you guys. Okay? But what they did is they explained these problems. And Josh Burson, together with our CEO, said, look, you need to become self-developing. And this is where you change the experience. You make it much more consumer. You make it much more simple. And you empower every person in your team to take control of their own development. You make it personalized. You make it meaningful. And you make it easy for them to become self-developing. And in the coming years, organizations where individuals and managers and the entire company has the ability to develop themselves without having HR or managers pushing it down to them, but it comes from inside, they are the ones that are going to outperform and outdeliver their peers. They will have better attention. They will have better performance. They will have better leadership. So this is the approach that we are seeing globally, and this is the approach that the leading companies are adopting. So then the question is, how? How do you do this? Well, we've identified 5 core pillars that you need to think about in order to become a self-developing organization. Right? Now, building these capabilities, it doesn't happen at once. Right? And in fact, the self-developing organization is not an ultimate destination. It's not a point that anyone ever finally reaches. It's the journey. It's the journey to get there that is the important thing. And there are things that you can do, and there will be outcomes you will get by doing these things. So let's start with, and I'm going to spend time on 3 of these in specific, but let's just look at them at the high level. Starting with individualized development. So when you personalize the experience and make each of your employees feel like an individual, not just a number or a cog in the wheel, employees will take more ownership of the opportunities they have to define their own path for growth. By supporting this self-directed individualized development, your employees become more engaged and their knowledge increases. Right? And the research we've had says that you can get up to a 60% growth in revenue just by looking at individualized development. Right? This comes from a report by Randall Beck and Jim Harper. Companies that engage and develop their workforce realize a 59% growth in revenue per employee. That was done in April 2015. Another key element of this is continuous learning. And that's where we make it easy to access the learning and development tools, right, for every employee. Right? If you're an organization that invests in learning, you are likely to get twice as engaged employees. And in fact, that also leads to an astounding double median revenue per employee. And that's according to research by Burson from Deloitte in April 2015. So the ability to make it easy to find the learning, to give it to people where they are in their job, give it to them in bite-sized amounts, short pieces of learning, in context to what they're doing, increases engagement and it increases revenue. Now, the other area I want to talk through is career mobility. So this is where if you are developing and improving the career pathway of your staff, you are likely to see substantial improvements in revenue, 75% according to PricewaterhouseCoopers. they did a research piece in November 2014, and it said labelled Talent Management, State of the Market. So these are three things that I want to dwell into a little bit more, and that's my next couple of slides. And I really want to focus on these top three: individualised development, continuous learning, career mobility. Just before I do, it is not to forget the value of the ability to improve your productivity by accelerating knowledge. And this can be as simple as making sure that knowledge is effectively shared using social tools, making sure that people can contribute, and to making sure that the material they have access to will increase their capabilities incrementally every time. Finally, for the organisation and for the manager, let's not undervalue the power of the insights the system can give you. We can start to look at everything from the risks that we have by our staff not being appropriately trained. We can look at the weaknesses of our teams and where their gaps are in skills or competencies. And then, of course, from that, we can help them to improve and address those gaps through learning. We can start being predictive about potential flight risks or areas of interest. And we can start to deliver recommendations, initially on learning, but later we're going to look at areas such as recruiting, where things like big data and the ability to do meaningful predictions are going to become more and more valuable to your business. So these are the 5 things that you need to be able to do to truly become self-directing. And in the rest of this webinar, I'm going to focus on individualized development, continuous learning, and career mobility. Let's just look at them one at a time. So I mentioned here already that if we connect people to the tools that they need to do a self-directed path for development, we're going to see greater engagement, we're going to see more retention, and you're going to increase people's skills. When we look at continuous learning, here we have to focus on making it simple for people to discover and get the learning opportunities throughout their day in context, where and when it makes the most impact. Now, this has got a really interesting statistic here. That one in the middle, 24 minutes. Across the globe in our research, the average worker has less than half an hour to development in an entire week. Now, I know there are some companies, and we were talking with Wipro and a few of the other big Indian consultancy firms, who really emphasize that. And they might do a few hours a week, but honestly, they're an exception. 24 minutes is an average. And that means that when your team finally gets that few minutes to do development, it's got to be easy. It's got to be fast. It's got to be so simple to find what they need to find. And if they can do that, then they will start to see better business outcomes. And truthfully, most of us have a long way to go. Less than 20 or around 25% of companies actually have a really integrated, continuous learning culture. So if we can look at that gap and address it by making learning easier, we will see these business outcomes. And finally, dwelling in the career mobility side, and I think this one's particularly important. If you are giving people a way of seeing their future progress in your business, you will have better retention, more loyal, more dedicated employees. And remember, this does not have to be an upward move. For a lot of people, it is different challenges in the same role. Maybe new things to learn, new people to run as virtual teams, new projects to work on. And these are part of the strategies that you will get for retaining talent. Maybe I move up into a different role in somewhere else in the company. Maybe I move across. So if you have a career path with your organization, 78% of people will stay longer. And that's really important for millennials. They're taking over our business. We know that. And 91% of them will stay in a job for less than 3 years. And in fact, if I had a poll, I would ask this question. I want you to think about it. If you think about the millennials you work with and you ask them what would they consider, how much time would they need to spend with a company to show loyalty? And when I asked my dad that question, 10 years. When I went and thought of that question, 5 years. For millennials, it's not even a year, 9 months. Now that says something, okay? So, the need for career progression is becoming more and more important, especially for the millennial generation. So let's talk now about how to do this practically. And this is where I want to introduce the SumTotal suite. It's designed to make it easy to grow your organization's capabilities. It's an innovative solution that lets you know, mobilize, develop, promote, and reward your workforce. So what I want to do now is I want to show a couple of characteristics of the product that demonstrate these 3 key factors to become self-developing. So to do that, I'm going to switch across to my browser, and we will start to see it actually in play. So let's just jump across. Okay. So I'm going to reload my screen, make sure it's appearing. And please, someone let me know if they're not seeing my browser or I'm moving too quickly. But the first thing I want to point out here is I'm logged in to the SumTotal portal. And again, it's branded for SumTotal, but that branding would change. I'm logged in as Sally Benton. And I can see her up here at the top. She's a sales manager, okay? And Sally is, one of my go-to employees. I'm going to log in as her. And the first thing to point out is that what she sees on her homepage, it's not your traditional enterprise software. This is a lot more like consumer experience. It's almost like a Spotify website. It's big and it's visual. And we do this because we have these dashboards that are really easy to personalize. I can give Sally one experience where her manager might see something completely different. And the administrator, again, might see something completely different. So with individualized development, it starts right at the homepage. Here, for Sally, we're emphasizing things that make sense to her. So it's personalized. She might get access to her profile. And I'll talk about that in just a sec. She can see where she sits in the organization or review her goals for the year. We might want to focus on the power of continuous learning. And she has a learning dashboard that we'll see and a development plan that we'll work through. We can even do more detailed skill analysis to say, you need this level of .NET and you're at this level currently. Here are the courses you need to do to upskill. The content within the learning management system can be things that you've uploaded. It could be a PDF document, a SCORM course. But because we are, SumTotal, owned by Skillsoft, who are the world's largest provider of online learning. I mean, Skillsoft have trained more people than anyone. We're talking 100 billion learning interactions. It just blows my mind. All of the great Skillsoft content is pre-integrated. So if you want to take advantage of some of the things like the Leadership Advantage series and have people directly access some of the key lessons in that, you can do it because it's pre-integrated. But of course, in addition to Skillsoft and your own content, you could launch content that is elsewhere on the web. It could be a TED Talk, a YouTube video, or a MOOC, or anything else that you want to connect to. So as a learning management system, it can bring in or link to content all around the world. So again, individualized development and continuous learning starts at the homepage. Now I'm going to go into, I did say I was going to have a look at the profile. I might do that later on, Stuart. I'm going to start with my learning dashboard. Because really here we're talking about development and learning. And the learning dashboard is one of the dashboards we have that you can use. In this case, its dedicated function is for learning. I should say, the homepage you saw, that's the dashboard. The profile page that you will see, that's a dashboard, as is this page. The power of the dashboard is that you can build them however makes sense for you. This is how I like my dashboard to appear, with the news at the top and with my learning here and the tasks and so on. But if I was an administrator, I could change this for everyone. Or if I'm an individual, I could change it just for me. So for example, I wanted my learning widget to be above quick links, I just drag and drop it. Or I can add one of the other widgets. This is, again, individualized development. Now, obviously, for some companies, it may not make sense to let every person change their dashboard, their homepage or their learning dashboards. But when you think about the millennial generation, and when you think about the power of individualized development, having the ability to give a unique experience for groups of people, for departments, or even for an individual, it should not be undervalued. So in this learning dashboard, I've got a few things that I can look at. I've got, maybe news here, things I want to focus on, and maybe I need to launch the IT security policy. And I can do that. I can launch it straight away. It will open. This is just a learning activity. It happens to be the simplest one you could probably imagine, just a PDF document. Don't mind me, it's just an old link and I never updated it. Oh, well, it's live, okay? If something goes wrong, it's guaranteed that it's live. So I'll go back to my learning dashboard. I actually get to that IT security policy from somewhere else. One of the great places to go to get that other information is what we call the timeline. Now, the timeline is available on every page. I can access it from the top right up here, which is that little bell icon. But I also have a summary of it here under my learning. I see I've got 2 critical learning activities. I've got 3 assigned. I can click on those. The timeline will open, and it will take me to what I need to see. So this is that inspired by Facebook, where I can see everything I have to do in a single place. I can filter it. Show me only my learning activities, because remember, this is a talent suite. There may be other things I need to do, like a 360 feedback or a succession plan, or I need to approve a compensation package. But here I've got learning. 2 of them are critical. 1 is a required certification. All right, 3 are assigned to me. 11 are current. You can see what I'm currently working on. Let's just go to the critical ones, or even go to my ones that are current. And from here, I can very quickly see everything I've got to do. There's that IT security policy. I previously started, but I haven't finished it. And I can do a one-click start. So any online activity, one-click start, it will open. Instead, I get to it via another way, and that's the way. The timeline is at one spot for everything I need to do. The IT security policy loads, it's just a simple PDF document, and when I'm happy and read it, I close it. The system will say, well, this is just a document. I don't know if you finished reading it. Have you or have you not? I'll say no, because I want to come back and do it later. And when I'm done, it will give me a summary. Now, of course, if this was a SCORM course or a Skillsoft course, it would know all this information. When I click OK, it takes me back to my learning dashboard. So you see, I just launched a learning activity, and that was how easy it was. And of course, I could launch any of the Skillsoft courses or anything else that you've uploaded to the platform. But again, I go back to the idea of individualized development. As a person, I can very quickly see what have I got to do right now. What's been assigned to me, what is critical, what is overdue. And if some of those things require me to register, I could register. So for example, for an instructor-led training course, or in this case, I'm registered for it, I can cancel the registration. So the system not only handles, of course, online learning, but also instructor-led training, virtual sessions through WebEx, just like we're using today, on-the-job training, and a range of other learning activities. It's very easy as an individual to see what I have to do. Now, that's all well and good for training that's been assigned to me. And there may be some training. I may also have tasks. So I may have to track my continuing education or do an observation checklist. Again, they're related to learning activities, but they're not actually takeout activity, they're related things. So an observation checklist is a way of confirming that I've attained learning and actually demonstrated learning. So that's, if you think about it, the Kirkpatrick level, where I have not only done the training, but I've actually then gone ahead and demonstrated it. And as a manager or as an employee, I could confirm that I have gone ahead and demonstrated a good presentation. So I could then start that directly by just clicking start. And this checklist I could complete, and then my manager could complete every time I do a presentation. And that could be part of a larger program of training. I'll close that. So we talked about the ideas of tasks that's been assigned to me in my learning dashboard. I'm just going to go back to my learning dashboard from the menu. So that's everything that I have to do. But for individualized development, One of the things that's really important is the ability to not just say this is what you have to do for your job or for your role or it's been assigned to you, but suggest things that I might be interested in. And that's where the recommended courses here in the middle is really powerful. This is that big data where you say, because you told us some of the things you're interested in, we'll recommend something. So, for example, if Sally is interested in marketing, so she may want to move to the job of Vice President, Sales and Marketing. Again, I happen to choose that one. And I can select from the library, and we have a very comprehensive catalogue capability, whereas a learning management system, you can define your own catalogue and put courses into as many of the different topics as you want. But I can use those topics as a way of saying things I'm interested in. If I'm interested in customer care, perhaps, when I click next, I can even select subtopics. So I'm not interested in safety training, maybe in sales, relationship, building rapport. And when I click OK or click Close, watch what happens to the recommended courses here in the middle. They will update almost in real time based on my selection. And in fact, if people in my organization, my peers, have rated courses more highly, they will bubble up to the top. This is like Netflix or Amazon, where you said, because I like this topic, make me recommendations. And from this, I could go ahead and simply start that course straight away or register for it, depending on what it requires. Now, speaking of registration and courses, one of the other things that's very important is that people will not often browse the catalogue for finding learning activities. The recommendation widget, that's very powerful, but let's face it, Google has kind of spoiled us. We expect to be able to search. And if I want to find a topic, I'm going to search for it. So for individualized development, one of the real important characteristics is search, even more so for continuous learning. If you have 24 minutes and you can't find what you want to find, you've lost half of that 24 minutes. So if I'm looking for something, I should be able to quickly search for it. And when I search for something, I'm going to search for account manager. It's a fascinating topic, account management. But what I wanted to point out here is that the enterprise search within SumTotal doesn't just find learning activities. Of course it does. It finds all 622 learning activities. It also finds the navigation. So if I'm a new manager and I need to do something and I don't know where to go, search can help. It can find me the reports. It can find me Skillsoft books, job aids, skill brief and video that are pre-integrated with our platform. No one else can do that. Skillsoft has hundreds of thousands of static assets like books and videos. The ability to search those is something that only we can do. And that's really important for continuous learning because some people like to read books. We can do that. The other thing I wanted to point out is not only does it find all those things, it also finds people. So this is a talent suite. I can find out more about my team. And because I know Sally has two people reporting to her, Emma and Stephen, who are both account executives, and by the way, we search for account management. It's got synonym searching, so I really like. But depending on who I am and what my rights are, I may be able to do different things from the drop-down. If I look at Elvira, all I can do is see her public profile. And I said I'm going to show profile later, I will. But for Emma and Stephen, I can access their profile, where they are in their org chart, their learning approvals, their checklists, because they're part of my team. I can get access to their transcript, just like I could get access to my transcript from quick links. I can do it for my team. So part of the idea of individualized development and continuous learning is being able to do that for my team. Let's do one more. Let's say I'm interested in advanced people management. Yeah, notice the auto suggest. That's pretty cool. Because someone said this would be an interesting course for me. Let's have a look at it. All right, Advanced People Management is an advanced level program. Notice that it's an instructor-led training course versus an online course. Online courses, one click start. But I could register my team. That's handy. If we're talking about individualized development and continuous learning, I find a course that my team should do, I can register them straight away. That's really good. But let's say I want to register for Advanced People Management. If I register for this course, the system, again, will make it easy for me to find the appropriate session that the course is running on. And in this case, I had two, one in Auckland, one in Sydney, and again, I could filter it by things like location or date range. So for a lot of businesses who are still using both using instructor-led face-to-face training, the system will handle it and make it easy for people to find the course they need. And if necessary, there may be rules around whether you can register for it or whether you have to go through an approval process. That approval process could be based on the cost of the course. It could be based on just rules that this particular department has to get approval, whereas this department doesn't. So when I submit this, it will go to my manager, Stuart, for his approval. By the way, it's worth pointing out I can always register later or even just express interest. And this is quite powerful. We have quite a number of Indian companies using that function as a way of developing training needs analysis. They'll put the courses up there. They won't schedule the classes until they've had a certain number of people say they're interested, and then they'll schedule the class. So when we talk about individualized development, these are all parts of it. Okay. The last thing I want to show as Sally is, actually I should say last thing, there are two things I want to show that to Sally. One is the development plan or the individualized development plan. Until now, we've talked about the fact that I have assigned training, got to be easy to get to. I have recommended training, that's great, and I have the ability to find training. Great. But what if I want to tie it together with my manager as part of a development plan, one that I can track to and report on? So as part of our platform, and this is actually a core part, ties together learning and talent, we have the notion of a development plan. So it's going to go to my development plan, and then I can do career and personal development. Now, interestingly, I've got a company tab, which is all the activities that the company is recommending or my manager has, and I have my personal tab for all the things I have found. And the entire plan can then be given comments and sent for approval. But when I'm adding activities to the development plan, you can see there are a few here. I might actually delete one of them in a minute. Maybe this one, I'll just delete that if I can, remove activities. But let's say I need to find some learning activities to do or some development activities. The first thing is there may be activities within the learning catalog that I can simply do, right? Something that I search for and find of interest, or my manager finds of interest and assigns it to me in the catalog. So that's kind of similar to what we saw with Career Search. It becomes part of my development plan, and actually then will appear on my timeline. And then I can report in the status of the development plan. And I can group things together. So I may have some personal development that have to do with my current job. There might be personal development that have to do with my communication skills. I can group these things. But even more importantly, if you think of the sort of 70-20-10 model, 70% of our learning is done through on-the-job and relationships, not through training in a catalogue. So this is where an external activity should be able to be used. It could be present at the People Matters webinar. That's something I want Sally to do. She's going to do the next presentation. And it's a suggested activity that I wanted to do. It's a goal. I could have a URL. We have a start date. So I want her to do that next week. It's not yet completed, and I can even align it to her skills and her competencies, which are coming from our talent and learning platform. We have a common skill and competency model that you can associate with learning activities, with performance reviews, and a lot more. I hit save. That will appear. It's actually one of her upcoming ones there as well. Also, she can track to that. So we can handle all the internal and all the external activities. But let's face it, as a manager, and I manage a team, a couple of guys in India and around the world, I could probably identify issues with my guys, things that I know they need to work on. I think most managers could probably say, here's an area where my team, this is a weakness for this person. The harder thing is helping people address those weaknesses. How do you help resolve those gaps? Well, this is where the development wizard is really powerful. This wizard which is accessible to the individual or to the manager, because remember, the manager can go in and do these development plans and all the activities will appear under the company tab, can develop the person to their current position, select a future position, or even just pick from the competencies. And when we start talking about developing for future position, that will take us to the third topic, which is career mobility. So now, though, I'm just going to develop for the current position. And we can use the data that's already in the platform, from 360 evaluations, from performance appraisals, from succession, even job hiring. And if we don't have that data, we can always do a self-assessment. I know Sally has that because I did her performance review last year, so we'll use it. And here I can see where her gaps are. Her self-rating for achieving results, her average rating from her peers and her manager, and her target, pretty close. There's a few more gaps here. So I can select any of these competencies, and there may be ones that are not assessed. Once I select them and hit next, because we manage a mapping of content to competencies, the system can dynamically recommend learning activities and other things such as goals, readings, even some of the coaching and mentoring content. So there's one that's a Skillsoft course, so I'll add those to her development plan. And when I do, they will now show up under her personal plan. There they are, coaching performance. And if I actually go to her timeline, and maybe I need to refresh, just have a look, under current, I will see, go to learning, and I will go to assigned, and there they are, coaching performance and future mentoring. So that's that integration between development planning and that timeline that we saw before. So let's just summarize. The idea of individual development is throughout what we've seen. It starts at the homepage. What's the experience you give to the person? It goes into the dashboards. How do you customize it for the particular person or their group to give them what they need? It's there in the timeline. Show me what I need to do. Make it easy. Make it really easy to search so that I can develop myself continuously, quickly. Give me dynamic recommendations. And finally, let me manage it together in a development plan that I can work on with my manager and do that individualized development for every person in the organization. So, if I jump back to my presentation, I've kind of covered a lot of individualized development and continuous learning. I want to talk about career mobility. And that is going to take me into the summer release. This is the next generation of the functionality that's being released in 5 days' time. And you can see this is a homepage for, this is one we actually used at the HR Tech conference. And I'm actually logged in as Lauren Fisher. Okay, and I'll show you a couple of things that have changed, and this is all about career progression. Let's start with having a look at her profile. And I'm just going to jump to her profile details because this gives me quick access to her resume. I could have got to it through a number of ways, but one of the things that we're developing in the most recent release is a more visual way of having your resume data. So that your resume, which might come in when you get recruited or you build over time, can be easy to understand at a glance. Right? And this is where I can say, all right, I'm interested in, here's my objectives, here's my travel preferences, any certifications, awards. I can add things like my education or my work history. I can put in specific skills and even add attachments. So that's part of the start point for career mobility, because you want to be able to let people have their almost LinkedIn style profile within the company, because you want to be able to use that for things like succession planning and for internal candidate mobility, career mobility. So let's talk about how that might work. In the new release, when I go to search, not only can I find activities and people and reports and navigation, I can also find a job from within the platform. Now again, what I'm showing you here is future capabilities. We're building out our recruitment and talent acquisition capabilities over the next few releases. This is sort of a preview. So again, it's sort of early release, preview functionality. Just keep that in mind. If I'm looking for, again, a national sales manager role as Lauren, I can actually go ahead and look through the search results and not only see everything I've seen before, but down the bottom, jobs. Notice this idea of job fit at a glance, I can see I'm a pretty good fit for that national sales manager. I've got a 77% fit. That's pretty handy. And let's actually have a look at that job. Right? And from here, I can get that quick overview of the job. I can see its information. I can see its requirements. I could see, compensation information. And if I needed to, I could apply for that job directly. So this is kind of where the future is going. Where not only can I look for my current fit, but I can start to see where I fit elsewhere in the company. So that's from an end user's perspective. What about from the manager? Let me just log out as Lauren. I'm going to log in as Stuart. I remember I mentioned before that the dashboard could be completely different if you're a manager. Here's the example. In this case, Stuart, as our manager, doesn't have the same carousel that we saw for Sally. He's got quick access to the key things he needs. And from here, I could jump quickly to my team or my profile. And I wanted to show just a couple of things within Teams. And then I'll probably stop at that point and leave it open for questions with a few minutes to spare. So in the current model, we already have the ability to view the organization charts. This is something we can already do. What we've done is enhanced it. So if I was looking at the current version, it would look just like this. And notice, Stuart can access his quick links, but he could also do that for for Sally, who is over there. There it is, as well. Okay? But the new view, which I think is really quite interesting, lets me filter and sort my team based on some of the metrics that we keep for them. How far are they through achieving their goals? How good is their job fit? There's Sally's job fit, there's Roger's, and so on. How are they doing in their development tasks? Now, again, maybe it's the beginning of the year, people haven't done much development, only Sally and Steve have done a bit. It's more likely that, the people who are developing the content for my demos haven't yet finished everyone's development plans. But this is where I can start to look at that information, that individualized development and continuous learning information for an entire team. And I can even do some of the career mobility from this. I can see my requisitions that are open. So these are jobs that I need to fill. Right? And I could look at something like this role for Vice President. Let me just refresh that page. So this is just a preview version, and I'm wondering if Chrome's having a problem with the link. Again, it's a live demo. Try one more time, open requisitions. From here, I can go ahead and view the requisition, or I can view the candidates. And this is where I can start to see how people might fit for a role as a manager. So I could look at Lauren, and I could see how she fits this given role, how her experience matches, where her gaps are, what recommended learning she might need to do, right? And I can even look at things like where she is placed physically in relation to the job. And from here, I can access Lauren's resume directly. So these are some of the tools that will make it easier for managers to give team career mobility. So just to summarize that, if I'm an individual person, I've got already the capability to do things like my interested in jobs when I'm selecting the recommended learning. I can also say I'm interested in the future position when I'm doing that gap analysis for development wizards. And then I can look at an individual job that might be open and see how I fit to that job. All these tools will let my people find opportunities to develop and to grow. In doing so, they will be more productive and more retained. Now, the last thing I was going to show you was just a quick sneak peek of the future that I couldn't show you in this demo, and that's the mobile app as well. So all the learning that we're talking about doing should be able to be done through a mobile device. Everything you've seen so far is touchscreen friendly. You can do this all on a tablet, but there's a dedicated mobile app as well, iPhone, Android, and shortly Windows 10, that will give you a beautiful experience on the phone. So that note, I'm probably just going to stop. I just want to mention that, SumTotal has been around for over 30 years. We've got a large number of customers across the world in a wide range of industries, from healthcare and pharmaceutical, finance, aviation. We have some of the world's largest airlines, and a number of organizations within government, space as well, with 45 million users. So we've been doing this for a while. The trends we're seeing are global, and hopefully you've seen how they can be used for yourself and also how they've been able to assist our other customers, such as Capgemini, and there's an interesting quote there which I'll leave you to read. So at that point, I would say thank you very much for your time, and I'll happily open it for questions.
Thank you so much, Tim, for the great insights. We will now be moving on to the questions from our listeners. We have got a line of number of questions. So the first one is from Sadio. So he loves your point of only 24 minutes spent on developing. How can older generation let go of the procedures to embrace a learning culture? Because he says we're still stuck on policies and business cases, etc.
Look, that's a great question. I think the first thing we've got to do is make sure that the business cases and the policies and all those basic requirements, the compliance requirements, are easy to do. You can't ignore them, but they've got to be automated as much as possible. I mean, for example, we're very strong in compliance. A lot of pharmaceutical companies use us because you've got to make sure that people have read the policies, they've signed off on the policies, you've got audit trails. You've got to have all that. But that's not enough to, that might keep you from being sued or failing an audit. It's not enough to keep your people and to grow their capabilities. And that's where a system that's intuitive, it's easy to use, it's friendly, that will be, I think, what helps you the most.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tim, for answering that question. We have the next one coming up from Rakshit. Any suggestions for self-directed training for the sales staff of luxury product industry?
Sorry, for which industry?
It is the sales staff of luxury product industry.
Sales staff for luxury products industry. Look, I mean, it's a tough one. Skillsoft itself is a company that develops content, and they've got a lot of sales content. I personally have done a lot of sales training in enterprise software sales, slightly different from the luxury product industry. Although I think if you were selling me a Mercedes-Benz, you'd probably use some similar approaches. That said, the thing that I actually would suggest is kind of interesting here, something that we've done before, is integrate it with the tools they use. So a lot of customers use Salesforce. And if they're doing a sale and they need to make sure that the training content is there before going out to a meeting, right, or before making a proposal, having the direct link to the small snippets of training content from within Salesforce is a really good secret to use. So while I can't advise on what content to actually leverage, and there are obviously sales methodologies, and Skillsoft has a lot of that material, make sure it's available to the salesperson in the tools they use. If it's email they use, get that email to them every couple of days. Short tips, snippets, and make the training short and to the point to salespeople. You know what the attention of salespeople is like. It tends to be, I've got to close this deal, I'm moving on. So that's the piece of advice I'd give.
Sure, Tim. So let's move on to the next question. Megha is very curious about this one. So she asks, large MNCs who have an established talent development team with relevant training programs delivered in digital mode, employees are also aware of the importance of the same for their career progression, personal development, but still end up procrastinating. So how to make sure that employees do participate?
Sorry, a bit hard to hear that because there's echo, but how to make sure the employees participate in the learning or in the talent?
In the talent.
In talent. Okay. So, look, I think one way to answer that one, I'm actually going to go in. I'm going to use just a quick window here. I'm just going to log in as Stuart into my environment. So there's a couple of things. First of all, tie the involvement in talent to remuneration, right? Make it part of their KPIs. If they have not completed their performance appraisals, if they have not achieved certain performance requirements, that does not, they're not entitled to bonuses. They're not entitled to pay increases. That's a really, sort of very powerful lever that you can use. The other thing, of course, is, you've got elements of gamification, especially in learning, that are coming through. But for, talent processes, that's probably not appropriate. What I would instead say is that, the talent processes, things like talent performance appraisals, they are becoming more social and they're becoming more informal. Right? We're seeing a lot of rise of ratingless surveys. Let me give you an example. Actually, I will use this one. Where is it? Powering Performance here, where some of our performance appraisals now are not that sort of formal twice-a-year approach. Instead, they use two things that are really important. One is continuous feedback, right? Where you can go and you can request feedback for anyone in your team, or you can simply provide feedback for someone within the organisation. So the ability to capture ongoing thanks, recognition, or potential issues as part of the system. That's a key part. So it becomes more social, more of a, almost like, LinkedIn comment or Facebook like. And then you use that as part of a more informal, continuous performance discussion with your team. Right? And so each month you get a reminder to have that discussion with your team. In fact, if I look at my tasks, I think I have some here. I've got a monthly check-in to Steve. And so when I go to that, this is not your traditional performance appraisal. It doesn't have 20 questions. It might be just 2 questions. So you keep it really simple. I can see my recent updates. These are things that were said about Steve by Stuart or by Lauren. I can do a quick check-in on the areas that are going well, areas for improvement, and I can quickly access the development plan. And when I click Edit here, as Stuart, the manager, I have now got access to Stephen's development plan, so I can see how he's tracking to his development goals. So I think the answer to the question, as I understand it, if you want to get engagement and buy-in on talent, make it easy, make it a little bit more fun, make it a lot more collaborative, make it a bit more social, make it more ongoing. So it's not a big tick the box at the end of the year, pain in the proverbial, but it's a lot more interactive, a lot more ongoing. And that's how we all do better. We all do better with ongoing feedback. Does that answer that question, do you think?
Right, absolutely. I'm sure the person who has asked has noted to all those key points which you have shared with all of us. So, Mr. Tim, we are going to wrap up with the Q&A session as the time does not permit with us today. So we will take all the remaining questions offline and share it with you. So once again, we'd like to thank today's webinar partner, SumTotal, and our special thanks to our speaker, Tim, for this webinar and the invaluable information that you've shared with us today. And I'd also like to thank everybody in the webinar audience for participating in today's presentation. It was a pleasure bringing to you this webinar, which is a part of the Get Set Learn campaign in association with Skillsoft and SumTotal. Do visit the Get Set Learn page on the People Matters website to know more and read the excellent range of content we have put together. So I'm also sending the link to see the website. Do share your feedback as well with us regarding the campaign. Stay tuned for many more such exciting sessions. That will conclude today's webcast. Thank you and have a great day.
Yes, thank you very much. Appreciate everyone's time.
Thank you, Tim.